On this episode of What's Going On with Shipping, how to clear the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach in 5, not so easy, but achievable steps. Hi, I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano, and this week we've been following a trend. So last video I did, I talked about the use of the Ready Reserve Force in being able to help assist in clearing the ports of LA and Long Beach. And I looked at it solely at a maritime dimension. But today there is a tweet out by the head of Flexport, Ryan Petersen, who identifies 5 steps that he sees as being achievable that can help assist this. So I want to use Ryan's tweet chain he did, and all credit to Ryan on this. This is his idea, not mine. But I thought it's a great one to get out there to everybody. So first thing, Flexport. Flexport is, it's many things, but basically it's a freight forwarder. That's what it jives down to. As you see right here on their webpage, technology, infrastructure, expertise, only Flexport brings it all together to deliver a more modern, dramatically better freight forwarding experience that enables business of all kinds to import, export globally. And that's what they do. They are the modern freight forwarder, as they say right here. And the leadership, this is Ryan Petersen. He's the founder and CEO. He's got experience in doing this. I follow Ryan, and I follow a lot of people at Flexport because I think they have a great handle on this. So this is Ryan's tweet right here. I got to say, one of my goals in life right now, and again, I don't have many achievable goals, and you know, I got to set my goals very, very, very much. But Ryan follows only one person, and that is Flexport. But he has 46,500 followers and everything. You know, my dream someday is that Ryan follows me, but that's not going to happen because Ryan doesn't follow anyone but his own company. But anyway, he posted this just an hour ago, and it's taking off, and I really want to do it. And all credit to Ryan. I'm not stealing his idea. This is Ryan's idea, not mine. So I just want to put it out there. But I think it's very important to put ideas out there. We've identified to the nth degree what the issue is. But here is Ryan in a succinct chain of tweets putting this down. So yesterday he rented a boat, took it out one of Flexport's partners in Long Beach on a 3-hour tour. Can I just be clear, Ryan? 3-hour tours in a small boat, not very advisable to a generation that grew up watching Gilligan's Island. But fortunately, he didn't get marooned on a small desert island with Gilligan, the skipper, Marianne, and the Howells and the professor and Ginger. So first off, he said that the captain was happy to have him on board because what they usually rent him out for is his usual business is doing memorial services at sea. So Ryan went on board a death boat, it sounds like, to head out into the port of LA and Long Beach, which again, okay, that's what he wanted to do. Did the 3-hour loop. And one of the things that Ryan comes away with, and I think this is really important, you got to do a on the ground assessment. And we're hearing a lot from the Port of LA and Long Beach. But again, the Port of LA and Long Beach don't run the ports of LA and Long Beach. They're the landlords. They are not the terminal operators. So one of the things that Ryan says right off the bat, there are hundreds of cranes, and I counted only about 7 that were even operating. It seems that everyone agreed that the bottleneck is yard space at the container terminals. The terminals are simply overflowing with containers, which means they no longer have space to take in new containers. It's a true traffic jam. Right now, if you have a chassis with no empty container on it, you can go pick up containers at any port terminal. However, if you have an empty container on the chassis, they're not allowing you in to return it except on a highly restricted basis. That's because they're offloading ships and they're not able to get containers out. By the way, we're at record numbers off the port, over 70 vessels right now in the anchorages. If you can't get the empty off the chassis, you don't have a chassis to go pick up the next container. Again, this is all part of that process. Just moving containers off the vessel solves nothing. You're just log jamming into the port. With the yard so full, carriers and terminals are being highly restrictive in where and when they will accept empties. Also, containers are not fungible between carriers, so the truckers have to drop their empties off at the right terminal. This is causing empty containers to pile up. This one trucking partner alone had 450 containers sitting on a chassis right now at his yards. That means 400 empty containers are taking up 450 chassis that can be moved. This is a company with 6 yards, represent 153 owner-operator drivers. Go on here. He can't take the containers off the chassis because he's not allowed by the City of Long Beach zoning code to store empty containers more than 2 high in his truck yard. So you can only stack them 2 high, which means that if you stack them higher, you're in violation of code. With the chassis all tied up, storing empties, they can't be returned to the port. There are no chassis available. And he goes on here, and again, you can link over to this. I'll have this link on here. And so as the queue grows longer, with now over 70 ships containing 500,000 containers waiting offshore, the line is going to get longer, not shorter. This is a negative feedback loop. And Ryan goes in here to talk about you have to address the issue. You have to address the issue at play here. So basically, he comes down here to this point. In operations where a bottleneck appears somewhere that you didn't design it to appear, you must overwhelm the bottleneck. So this is his call to President Biden, to Governor Newsom. Partnering with the private sector, labor, truckers, and everywhere else in the chain must implement today. So the other day, when I did my maritime thing, I teamed up with Ross Kennedy at Man Integrated, the Huntsman, to talk about his proposal. And now here's Ross's. And by the way, Ryan's. And Ryan's contains a maritime component that I'm going to piggyback on. So here it is, the 5 steps that he has. Number 1, executive order effective immediately overriding zoning rules in LA and Long Beach to allow truck yards to store empty containers up to 6 high instead of the current limit of 2. Make it temporary, 120 to 180 days. Do it. Stack them. I mean, the reason you want containers stacked so high is it obstructs visibility. There's issues about tipping over, but we're seeing containers tip over onto cars on roads right now. This right here, and if you're watching this as it goes along, you'll see the likes increasing here as we're going along. That's a big measure, because one of the things that does, it frees up chassis. If you free up chassis, you can start moving containers better. This will free up tens of thousands of chassis. Number 2, bring every container chassis owned by the National Guard and the military anywhere in the U.S. to the ports and load them to terminals for 180 days. There's not enough chassis. Again, back in the day when container companies own containers and chassis, they had chassis yards. They had these. They don't. What they've done is basically privatize this. And so private firms have to right-size chassis for expected deliveries. No one has yards full of chassis because they don't expect this. We need the government to step in. Get the National Guard. When you say call in the National Guard, call them in to bring their chassis down there and lease them, rent them for $1 a day to these terminals to use to get this freed up. You can also use these chassis to put those containers on those ships I talked about the other day. Number 3, create a new temporary container yard at a large 500 plus acres piece of government land adjacent to an inland railhead within 100 miles of the port complex, Barstow, any of the major military bases. Problem with military bases, I'll tell you, is security issues, but getting on the post is always an issue. So we need to find something that we can do where truck drivers can get in and off, where it's segregated out, that you can put in security to allow them on and off. This is my idea with ships. Take those containers out of the yards and drop them somewhere where there's another access point, road and rail, you can get to. Number 4, which is a key one that I don't think about because this is not an area that I do, force the railroads to haul all containers to this new site, turn around and come back. No more 1,500-mile trail journeys, rail journeys to Dallas. We're doing 100-mile shuttles. Yes, let's get the rail lines quickly moving. Let's do a couple of short hauls versus one big long haul. You can still do long hauls. They still need to be done, but let's focus some of this into these short hauls. This way, truckers can go in and get the containers from these yards instead of the ports. These are satellite ports. Sometimes you'll hear the creation of seaports inland. How do you have a port? For example, in North Carolina, we have a seaport in Charlotte. That takes containers directly from the ports of Wilmington and Morehead City and drops them off in Charlotte. You have truck and chassis devoted to move those containers out of the yards to the inland port. You still have to clear customs and everything else through Charlotte, but at least you're moving the containers off. You still have to do security. You still have to do all the protections you need for landing a container. But now you're doing port clearance. You're doing all those elements inland away from the port at an area that you're not encumbering the port. And then finally, the 5th point, and this is the point that I piggyback on, what Ryan says is bring in barges, small container ships, and start hauling containers out of Long Beach to other small ports that aren't backed up. Again, marine traffic. How are you not sponsoring my website? Or at least give me that free subscription. I push you guys all the time. But here you are in the port of LA and Long Beach. Right here are the Cape Eyes. Here's the Cape Inscription. Here's the Cape Isabella right here. Their ramps are down. You can start bringing chassis down Nimitz Road right here and start loading them right on the ships. And you can run the Cape Eyes, the 4 of them out down to San Diego, to Port Hueneme, to some other area, to Oakland, to the old airstrip at Alameda. Get them out, put them on road and rail from there, and start freeing up LA and Long Beach, because what you're encountering is the highways coming out of LA and Long Beach. That's where you're getting your jam up. That's where you're having it. You're heading up into LA, heading up here into the other areas, and then heading out. You're just in this traffic area of Southern California, and you can't clear out. So I think Ryan, again, is putting out these ideas. And again, I can't say it enough. There are ideas out here. We just need coordination. We need coordination from the federal government. Again, I think the task force should be the heads of the Maritime Administration, the Rail Administration, the Highway Administration, FAA, all together creating that task force. I know we have a port liaison, but a liaison has no power. Liaison means they communicate between each other. There's no power there. We need some sort of direction in this. I just read the report and did a podcast with the guys from Bilge Pumps on the Bonham Richard fire. And I'm getting a video ready to do on that. And one of the reasons they lost that vessel was because of poor communications. There was no direction. And you have that potential here. You're creating a greater contingency. These ships are going to continually pile up in here if you cannot get them onto the berths to offload, because Terminal Island, LA, Long Beach have a finite amount of space. You've got to do something, and you've got to get the containers off the terminal. And that's what Ryan is advocating. So again, this is not my idea. I'm piggybacking on point 5 of Ryan's, maybe just a little bit, but this is Ryan Petersen from Flexport's idea. And again, I think we need to listen to every idea. The problem is, how do we get this into the hands of those in charge at the Port of LA, the Port of Long Beach, the terminals? Terminals can't do this. The terminals control their terminals. The Port of LA and Long Beach can't do this. They don't have the federal government, the state government's backing to do this. And again, there's an argument about this that I will tell you that people are saying is like, just leave it alone. It's commercial, it'll air out. People are buying junk, but it's not. There are vital elements in those containers that need to go in for our economy. Medical supplies, there's components for manufacturing. This can have repercussions down the road. And more importantly, we're demonstrating a strategic weakness of the United States. 30 to 40% of all containers go in and out of this port. You heard the other day, Governor DeSantis say the ports of Florida are open, bring ships into Florida. That doesn't work for a variety of reasons, not the least of which the Port of Miami handles 1 million containers a year. The Port of LA by itself handled nearly 1 million containers last month. Long Beach is handling 750,000 containers every month. The capacity is not there in Miami. The right cranes aren't there. They're not the same ships coming in. And more importantly, when you dump them into Miami, you're in Miami. You're in 5 hours from the border of Florida to Georgia. You need to get those containers to where they need to go. Do you have the road, the highway, the rail? You need chassis. You need everything you need in LA and Long Beach, which you're getting to LA and Long Beach. Now you'll need them in Miami. Why is it Savannah is piling up with ships, but not Charleston, Virginia? And even in New York and LA, it's because these carriers, these big shipping companies, like to go to one port. They like the idea of going to one port and dumping everything. They don't have extra port charges. They don't have to sail. They can go to one port. They'd much rather, believe it or not, wait in LA and Long Beach than sail to Oakland and Seattle, Tacoma. Same thing. You're seeing this on the East Coast. Savannah is becoming the LA and Long Beach of the Southeast. Now, you always have New York, New Jersey, but even New York, New Jersey can only handle so much. And they're handling it, but the growth area isn't in New England and the Mid-Atlantic, it's in the Southeast. And that's why you see long lines of ships off of Savannah right now. We have got to get a handle on this. We need to realize that there needs to be direction. We have deregulated ocean shipping to the point where we are basically leaving it up to multinational, international companies to decide. And let me be clear, there are groups out there advocating some crazy things. Cato just came out with an idea to open up the United States to Mexican trucks and Mexican truck drivers. If you want to farm out this to overseas, understand, you can make the argument, well, they're going to have to get paid U.S. wages. Yeah, they'll get minimum wage. They'll get minimum wage truck drivers in here with trucks that don't meet U.S. standards but meet Mexican standards, driving on our highways. Do we really want to farm this out? Do we want to take away jobs that Americans can do, truck drivers, but maybe can't get licensed because they can't get into DMV, can't get the right equipment because Southern California laws are so strict, you have to have new trucks to meet emission standards. What Ryan has done, and I will also argue what Ross did in the other presentation, is establish processes where we can alleviate this issue. But it needs control, it needs direction. Who is going to step up? I did a video on, who's in charge of this maritime crisis. The FMC has basically said, not us, we have no power. We have a nominee for the Maritime Administration, but not in power yet. And are they going to step up? A one-star former Navy admiral who has no commercial experience. We want them to solve a commercial shipping crisis. Could be the best crisis manager ever. But again, is this the right person to have in charge at this time? Again, these are solutions. I'm not just giving you the problems. I'm giving you some solutions. Will they work? I don't know. Ryan seems to think they'll work. Ross seems to think they'll work. But you know what won't work is doing the same thing we're doing now and hoping for the best. That never works. You need to take positive action. And more importantly, we need to learn from these actions so that in the future, we can input changes and reforms that will prevent this from happening in the past. Anyway, my tirade. Thank you, Ryan, for allowing me to steal this. He had no steal it. He put it on Twitter, so I'm just stealing it from him. But maybe Ryan will give me a shout out. Maybe he'll give me a little retweet out to his followers. But if not, if you enjoyed the video, and again, I don't understand how anybody enjoys these videos because all I'm highlighting is disasters at times. But if you did, please share it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos when they come out. Leave a comment, thumbs up, share it across social media. And if you would like, please support the channel by giving to Patreon, my Patreon page. That allows me to devote time to do this, to devote more time and energy to it, upgraded equipment, programs, cameras, all that kind of good stuff you need to make this look a little bit better. Maybe I need a filter of some kind. I'm hoping for a hair filter one day so that I can come in with a good head of hair. So anyway, until our next video, this is Sal, signing off. Have a good weekend.